Tonight, tasting freedom. After more than 100 days, lockdown will be over in just a few hours. The Premier declares Sydney back in action. Let the drinks flow. Pubs and clubs stocked and restaurants booked out, some ready to reopen from midnight. Retail therapy. Shops to welcome back customers with big discounts as hairdressers prepare for a long-awaited rush. Also tonight, parents to save on childcare fees in a major boost to the economy. Family trips back on. The tourist attractions good to go as the Prime Minister plans an earlier than expected return for overseas travel. And one of the great fights of all time, Tyson Fury beats Deontay Wilder in a heavyweight clash worthy of a Hollywood blockbuster.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Mark Ferguson.
Good evening. After more than 3 months of strict lockdown, Sydney's about to reopen, with many freedoms returning in just a few hours' time. This is the city right now, closed for business, but from midnight, life can start getting back to normal. We've been in lockdown for 106 days. That's now at an end, with 73.5% of people fully vaccinated, as cases dip below 500 today. The Premier says this will be the last lockdown, urging everyone to be patient and kind as we start to open up.
Attempting to mark Freedom Day Eve by pouring himself a pint,
That's it?
the Premier was left with a bitter taste in his mouth.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for getting beer all over my face.
As a publican, he makes a hell of a Premier.
Almost ruining his opening line.
It's been 100 days of blood, sweat and no beers.
But not for long. Across the city, bars are preparing to bring beers back.
Come in, toast the food, book a table, get out there, head down to your local and enjoy a cold beer.
Greater Sydney has now spent more than 15 weeks in lockdown. That's 106 days, 2,500 hours.
It's been a battle of our generation. It's been long, it's been tough. There have been so many sacrifices, but we are well and truly getting there.
From tomorrow, 10 vaccinated visitors, excluding children, can be in a home. 30 vaccinated adults will be allowed to gather outside. Hospitality will operate under a 1 person per 4 square metre rule indoors and a 2 square metre rule outside. Masks and check-ins mandatory, as are seats inside. Retail will face the same restrictions, while personal and beauty services must obey a 4 square metre rule and 5-person cap. For gyms, pools and sporting clubs, the limit is 20 people, and indoor pools are for lessons and laps only. Stadiums and theme parks have a capacity of 5,000, with up to 500 people allowed at outdoor ticketed events and 75% fixed seating for cinemas and theatres. While 100 people can attend and dance at weddings, 100 will also be allowed at funerals and places of worship, limited by the 1 person per 4 square metre rule.
We continue to listen to God speaking in the word of Scripture.
Commonwealth vaccination certificates will be needed to gain access for at least a week, with trials of the Service New South Wales vaccine passport to begin in Wagga Wagga, Lismore, Tamworth and Port Macquarie tomorrow.
We have worked with the industry, stakeholders and selected certain areas such as clubs, aged care facilities and taxis.
The state recorded 477 new cases today and a further 6 deaths.
That tells us we still have issues in our community.
Doctors fear complacency.
We don't want to rest on our laurels. Just because a lot of us have been vaccinated now doesn't mean that we give up on, hand hygiene, wearing masks.
The community is worried too.
We're a bit concerned about the pace of easing. We think it's a bit too rushed.
Psychologists urging us to ease our way back into normality.
Most of that anxiety that we're feeling, that you might feel, or that tax on mental well-being, eventually we recover from it.
While this has been our longest lockdown, the Premier is confident it will be our final one. Dominic Perrottet says any future stay-at-home orders will be a last resort. Premier, will this be our last day in lockdown?
Well, that's certainly the intention of this government.
But only if we can avoid scenes like this.
It's a bit frightening. I looked at it and I thought to myself, I'm scared to walk past.
I think people are maybe throwing caution to the wind and just kind of breaking free a day earlier.
But wait till tonight.
As everyone counts down to just that.
And we're live to Amelia Brace now. Amelia, not everything is going to plan for Freedom Day.
No, unfortunately, Mark, it doesn't look like we will be emerging to clear skies. This rain is set to continue tomorrow and much of the week, and it will also be significantly colder than it has been this weekend. The good news is hopefully that will prevent beach parties like we saw here in Manly last night, also in Bondi and down in Cronulla. Of course, what it won't stop is people heading down to their local pub or restaurant or seeing friends and family. So it's fair to say, no matter what, nothing is going to rain on our parade tomorrow, Mark.
Very fair to say. Amelia, thank you. Let's go to Amber Laidler now in Surrey Hills. Amber, it has been a very long wait, but the hospitality industry is ready to roll.
Yes, Mark, alongside travel and tourism, hospitality really has been hardest hit by these lockdowns. And even though the industry is now suffering a severe staff shortage, those who remain are just excited to get back to work. Many restaurants are already booked out this week, so it's all hands on deck to get ready, with some pubs and clubs even throwing open their doors in just a few hours' time. The pillows are fluffed, the poolside umbrellas up, the glasses glistening, Crown Sydney putting on the finishing touches, preparing to finally welcome guests back again.
We've had to remake 420 beds, fluff 2,500 pillows. They've ordered 15,000 oysters, 100 kilos of lobster and 1,000 bunches of herbs.
After more than 100 days, it's time to get back to business and make up for lost time. Hospitality ready and raring to go ahead of their busiest time of the year.
Moving into the festive season, that's going to be even more exciting to welcome even more guests to Crown Sydney.
The excitement extending across the city. After transforming into a vaccination hub, Bankstown Sports Club is set to welcome nearly all of its 600 staff back on board, already booked out for all of this week.
We're really quite excited and anxious at the same time. I think it's 106 days. It's been a tough slog.
With masked staff, plus capacity limits and mandatory vaccinations until we reach 80%.
All our staff are fully vaxxed, so they are ready to go.
Owners know it won't be business as usual, but they're confident it's the first step towards the new normal, hoping everyone plays by the rules to farewell lockdown once and for all.
Everybody is so incredibly positive and welcoming of tomorrow. It's been a long day coming and we're all looking forward to it, that's for sure.
There are Sydney-siders so excited to celebrate their newfound freedoms, they don't want to waste a second, with some venues preparing to pour their first schooner at a minute past midnight.
We have been receiving a lot of phone calls. It's going to be great to see everybody's faces again.
The major draw card enticing excited locals.
I think it's going to be the draft beer. I think everybody's missed the beer on tap.
Thankfully, they have plenty. Just under 4 hours to go. Amber Laidler, 7 News.
And it's not just pubs and restaurants that are raring to go. In just a few hours, one hairdresser will be working around the clock, already booked out in the run-up to Christmas. But not all businesses are on board, with some waiting until every customer can enjoy freedom.
Counting down to midnight, the most highly sought-after Sydney services prepare to open their doors once more.
It feels like I've been reborn again. We open up at 12:01 a.m. and we work all the way till 9 p.m, getting as many heads in as possible.
Alan Bookie Hair booked out for the next 2 months. 5 clients can be seen at once, in line with the square metre rule. Alan says it will be busier than Christmas.
I'm going to get I've got to do some interviews and getting a haircut. That's what I'm doing.
Cinemas like Hoyt's reopening to the vaccinated.
Have the popcorn popping and the soft drinks ready to pour.
The highly anticipated James Bond movie, No Time to Die.
You can imagine why I've come back to play.
On screens in November.
From there, it just kicks like it's the biggest back end to a year I think I've ever seen.
Gyms are back. F45 in North Penrith reopening to groups of 20. Check-in is at the door.
Bright and early, 4:45 tomorrow morning. We'll be up nice and early, shot to the system.
At 68 Fitness, members will only need to show their vaccination certificate once.
Obviously, if we have members, we only need to check them first time
coming back, and then they should be right after that. Very excited. It's been a long 4 months.
But some businesses are uncomfortable with having to police vaccination certificates, choosing to stay closed until December 1st, when restrictions on unvaccinated customers relax.
We're a really busy cafe, we're a very lean team. We can't afford to have someone on the front door policing that and checking it every time.
In Cremorne, Sarah O'Brien won't reopen for dine-in until she can serve unvaccinated people as well.
Until everyone can come in, we'll just keep everyone outside.
Isabel Mullen, 7 News.
It's been a long, hard road for retailers, but shops can finally welcome back customers. Some are also opening their doors from midnight with big sales on offer to kickstart the comeback.
The final touches ahead of tomorrow's grand reopening. David Jones, like many retailers, excited to welcome back Sydney shoppers.
We are ready to shop again and to feel that joy of shopping for occasions that are suddenly back on, all those missed weddings and parties.
From upbeat spring colours to teams dusting off their uniforms and immaculately stocked shelves. It's been all hands on deck to get ready, with retail workers across the city hoping for a smooth start to a new retail reality.
Be patient, be friendly, scan your QR codes, social distance. Our stores will have caps based on our square meterage.
We are also following COVID-safe protocols, such as increased cleaning in stores, sneeze guards at registers, and contactless payment is preferred.
Online shopping has boomed during lockdown, but for customers needing in-person help, it's not a perfect substitute.
The team are really excited around face-to-face interaction with customers, where they can really look to sort of service and understand a customer's needs.
But already there are widespread signs of staffing pressures, with the crunch likely to worsen.
And as people go back to work and people start to put demand on hospitality venues and on retail venues, we will be short of staff.
From blackout, it's just over a month to Black Friday, the first major test for reopened retailers. Eager to get a head start, several stores have already kicked off their sales.
Mid-season, Freedom Day, the reopening, whatever the reason, it's the same result. Plenty of bargains for shoppers.
People will go out, there's a pent-up desire, and we'll see a lot of spending between now and the end of the holiday season.
And Gemma Acton joins me now. Gemma, you're in the city where retailers have really been hit hard. How important is this reopening for the economy?
Well, Mark, it's vital. Around 60% of our economy is driven by consumer spending. The Commonwealth Bank estimates Australians have saved up $230 billion during lockdown, so there should be money ready to spend, and you're seeing some stores and beauty salons getting ready to welcome customers back from as early as midnight tonight, just keen to get a slice of those savings. Now, that includes almost all Spotlight stores across Sydney. They'll be opening their doors in less than 6 hours' time. Mark.
Gemma, thank you. Overseas travel could resume earlier than expected from the start of November, with plans to fast-track home quarantine in New South Wales for vaccinated travellers.
And if that happens, we will be able to move to facilitate the opening up of the international border into New South Wales sooner.
Around 35 people are currently trialling home quarantine with a mobile app that uses facial recognition to ensure compliance. In breaking news, a mother and her baby have had a very close call at Leichhardt after a car mounted the footpath and slammed into them. The woman in her 30s was pushed into a shop window which smashed, with the pram left in pieces on the ground. She was taken to hospital in a serious but stable condition. Her baby is unharmed. A driver is being questioned by police. Tonight we can reveal a disturbing letter sent from a notorious pedophile to the family of his young victims, saying there's no evidence they ever suffered. Timothy Stewart is serving 32 years in jail, but has now told his frightened victims he hopes to be free as early as next year.
It is 6 pages long, written neatly, methodically. The alleged words of a pedophile that reached well beyond Timothy Stewart's cage in Nowra, straight to his victim's home near Campbelltown.
This is a person who has absolutely no concept of the harm that he has done.
945 twisted videos and photos helped jail Stewart for 32 years over relentless attacks on 2 sisters. But in a letter to the girl's mother, the victim has provided no evidence that she suffered psychologically. The fears of the mother and her daughter are not warranted, and to enforce the current order would be an abusive process. That current order is an apprehended violence order supposed to prevent pedophiles from contacting victims. Ironically, Stewart has been charged now with breaching the AVO he says was not needed. Causing more anguish, I will be seeking some form of contact, including, but not limited to, letters, phone calls. Corrective Services did not intercept the letter because it was addressed and sent to a family member who then dropped it at the girl's home. From the victim's family today, Corrective Services have gone above and beyond to ensure our safety. Timothy Stewart is manipulative, always skirting around the law to maintain contact, torment and bully us and prolong our anxiety. He has zero remorse.
Timothy Stewart pleaded guilty to the bulk of his many charges, and in the court's eyes, that is a formal expression of remorse. This letter expresses anything but and can be used by prosecutors at his upcoming appeal.
If the appeal succeeds, Stewart writes, a sentence of 8 to 12 years maximum term would be the likely outcome, and he says a real possibility that I will be released between 2022 to 2026.
We like to think that once that trial process is complete, we are done with the matter. And this just goes to show you are never done.
Robert Ovadia, 7 News.
Hundreds of thousands of Australian families will get a discount on their childcare fees next year under a plan to boost the post-COVID economy. The federal government is trying to get more people back into the workforce to help with skills shortages across the country.
Speeding up cheaper childcare to get women back into the workplace faster. The federal government is bringing forward its $1.7 billion childcare package to begin March next year, not July.
It's going to make a big difference to 250,000 families.
And a big difference to the economy. As border closures shut migrants out, employers are crying out for more staff.
Around 90,000 people last year identified the cost of childcare as the reason why they weren't in the workforce.
Providers like Natalie say childcare is too expensive.
There's not many families that can afford full-time care at the cost of over $30,000 per child per year.
Starting March 7, the 85% government subsidy will be increased to 95% for any second or subsequent child under the age of 5, saving families an average of $2,200 a year. And according to Treasury, will mean 40,000 more people will work an extra day.
It's always been whether they could afford to do 2 days, 3 days or 5 days. This will take away a lot of that pressure for our families.
Labor says it's just a fraction of its centrepiece policy.
With the government's childcare package, only 25% of families are going to get any relief.
But the federal government has not yet finalised its election platform, and there could be further announcements for the childcare sector before they head to the polls.
Is this it? This is what you're taking to the election?
This is the policy which we announced in the budget.
No upgrades, no tweaking of it.
Do you want me to announce some election policy now? That would be a first.
Perhaps not the last we've heard of this. Jennifer Beshwati, 7 News.
Time to check the weather now. Angie, a grey change arrived late today.
Mark, that's it for the sunshine and warm temperatures for a few days now. Before that change, conditions were well above average, from a low of 16.6 degrees to a top of 25.5. Even though the first half of the day was fine, it was also quite smoky in parts. That haze was generated by hazard reduction burns happening in northern Sydney. Water bombing helicopters were used at Lane Cove, while the smoke was quite thick at times on the northern beaches. Those burns, though, are under control. What helped to move all that along was rain later today. It started with a few drops from early afternoon, building to about 12 millimetres at Parramatta, 7 in the CBD so far. There is more wet weather in store for us this week. Details soon, Mark.
OK, Angie, thank you. Donald Trump has launched a new legal campaign over the riots in Washington in the final days of his presidency. Next, why the former president wants key documents buried. First submarines, now helicopters, the new deal with America for military hardware. Shocking pictures why police dragged a disabled man from his car. Tourist attractions ready to reopen, how you can have your first family trip paid for, that's later. And the moment a building came crashing down.